Hey everyone, and welcome to What Was That with Gabe Sanchez. During their first week back in session, Republicans struggled to elect a speaker. They made secret deals behind closed doors, and they even tried to fight each other on the House floor. This clown Congress is already imploding on itself and becoming the worst Republican House of Representatives in history. The Republican Party has been riding the struggle bus from the very first day back in session, just a complete and utter mess. And even before Congress had chosen a speaker, Republicans made sure to remove the metal detectors in the Capitol building.
When I arrived in Congress 2 years ago, Nancy Pelosi put this hunk of garbage outside of the House chambers for members of Congress to go through. Today, they are being removed and we are turning Pelosi's house back into the people's house.
It's almost as though Republicans like Lauren Boebert are the very reason that the metal detectors were installed in the first place. You know, like a bunch of Republicans throwing a tantrum and smearing their shit on the walls of the Capitol as they try to overthrow the government on January 6th. Some Democrats fear there could be a mass shooting on the House floor at the trigger of one of the GOP's QAnon representatives. And their concern is justified, especially when extremists like Boebert made ads in 2021 vowing to carry their Glock into Congress.
I will carry my firearm in D.C. and in Congress. This caused outrage from Democrats and the media. Why? It's our job in Congress to defend your rights, including your Second Amendment, and that's exactly what I'm here to do.
And Boebert wasn't the only one roaming the halls of the Capitol. George Santos, the former straight, now gay, biracial, Jewish, cancer-surviving son of a maybe 9/11 victim, who is now being reinvestigated by Brazilian authorities, showed up to his first day at the Capitol with his backpack and his lunchbox, ready to work.
Are you confident in your position, sir? Sir, are you confident in your position? Sir.
This fraud wasn't even sworn in yet, and we gave him the responsibility of voting for the next speaker. That's if he could even remember his name.
Santos. Santos.
Which kind of felt like this.
Bueller.
But we should be easy on him, because, you know, he was busy picking his nose. Who knows, maybe he was just digging for his next lie to tell the public. Or maybe he was too busy getting his white power sign just right. Republicans during the 4 days of voting for a new speaker behaved like they were in a circus. And as much as I don't like the dollar store version of Anderson Cooper, Trey Gowdy is right about this.
But people watching your show need to call and say, you know what? I didn't work my tail off in November to watch y'all look like a clown show on national television.
But of course, clowns like Matt Gaetz have used this as an opportunity for their 15 minutes of fame.
Well, Trey Gowdy would know something about clown shows. That's probably how a lot of us would categorize the Benghazi hearings that resulted in people screaming at each other in a big report, but no real accountability.
Don't worry, Gaetz will come up again later. So during the 4 days of voting, Democrats stood united and strong behind the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, while Republicans just threw votes every which way. Outside of Kevin McCarthy, they nominated people like Andy Biggs, Jim Jordan, Kevin Hern, and also Donald Trump.
And so I nominate President Trump because we must make our country great again, and he can start by making the House of Representatives great again.
Gaetz nominating Trump is hilarious because it means that Trump has officially lost another election. And Max Miller, a former Trump staffer and now representative from Ohio, called out Gaetz' nomination as a political stunt for fundraising.
Nominating President Trump was a political stunt, and it should be seen as nothing other than that. When you go ahead and do that, and then you send out fundraising emails and text messages, and I understand that he feels the need to go ahead and raise money so that he can fight against Kevin McCarthy. We don't need to be raising money off of this. To me, that's a self-serving individual putting yourself before the conference and the American people.
This party is just continuously stabbing each other in the back. Republicans even tried to claim that they were also nominating the first black Speaker of the House, Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds is just a prop to the Republican Party, and when Representative Cori Bush exposed their agenda in a tweet, Republicans attacked her for it. But as much as Republicans want to refute her claim, she was right, and they quickly abandoned Donalds after a handful of rounds. They even patted him on his head once he switched his vote to Kevin McCarthy in the 12th round. And he switched it because he made a deal with Kevin McCarthy.
Congressman, what did you get in Florida? Everybody got something, right? What did you get?
Well, listen, one of the things that's going to happen is it's been put out. I'm actually going to be a part of the Republican steering committee as Kevin McCarthy's designate.
Now, one of the other clowns in the Republican Party during this whole process is none other than Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here she is whining to Steve Bannon about Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, and Scott Perry making committee deals with Kevin McCarthy.
You know why I'm upset? Because Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, and Scott Perry, the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, walked in Kevin McCarthy's office last night and made their own personal demands for which subcommittee chairmanships they want to have and who they want on committees and who they want taken off committees. And guess what? The chairman of the Freedom Caucus negotiated nothing for me.
The infighting is now costing Marjorie Taylor Greene to lose her MAGA base, with many calling her a sellout for backing Kevin McCarthy. From the very first round of voting for Speaker of the House, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, and various others voted to not support Kevin McCarthy. And for 4 days, we watched Republicans hold the House hostage while Democrats voted in a united effort to elect Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker. This Republican mess is Kevin McCarthy's Chaos Caucus, and a clear example of how he is unable to get control. Meanwhile, Lauren Boebert was trying to have her 15 minutes of fame and failing miserably. Here she is arguing with Sean Hannity.
You know, I feel like I'm getting a liberal,
I'm not going
an
to
answer
support
from a
Kevin
liberal.
McCarthy, Sean.
Okay, so even if you only have 30 votes,
Kevin McCarthy.
you will not abide by what you told President Trump to abide by.
Which I don't believe I will be.
I feel like we've made progress.
Look, I love President Trump. You're not going to turn me on him. You're not going to pit him against me.
Not trying to pit him against you. That's what you said to him.
And here she is on the 11th hour, proving once again she is not fit to serve.
Okay, sure. And maybe it's going to be me and Kim Kardashian and anyone else who can be out there.
Would you like me to nominate you tomorrow?
How long are you willing to wait? I mean, the American people voted you in. You waited
some of my
for this,
colleagues
right?
have said we could be here until the cherry blossoms bloom.
You've got the power, and every day that passes that you're not doing your jobs, voters are saying, hold on a second, I voted you in to get something done.
Boebert admitted on TV that she was okay with holding the House hostage till the cherry blossoms bloom. Not that she probably knows which month that happens in. This voting process was taking so long that I honestly thought George Santos was going to be arrested for financial crimes before he was ever sworn in. The last time it took this long to elect a new speaker was 133 rounds of voting over 2 months in 1856. And something else happened that very same year: the caning of Senator Charles Sumner. On May 22, 1856, South Carolina Representative Preston Brooks entered the Senate chamber and savagely beat Massachusetts Senator Charles Sumner into unconsciousness. Long story short, Brooks was a strong advocate of slavery and states' rights and was retaliating to an anti-slavery speech in which Sumner verbally attacked Brooks's first cousin once removed, South Carolina Senator Andrew Butler. Now, I bring this up for 2 reasons. The final day of voting was the 2-year anniversary of the deadly riot at the Capitol where Congress hid in this very House chamber. And because on that final night of voting, it almost turned into the Jerry Springer show when Representative Mike Rogers lunged at Matt Gaetz for voting present. This feels like a scene in a movie when an unmarked van shows up, door slides open, and Mike Rogers is never seen again. I mean, hypothetically, would that be so bad? Honestly, the whole thing felt like it was just one chair throw shy of becoming the Waffle House of Representatives. And for those of you who don't know Mike Rogers, he's another MAGA extremist from Alabama who voted against resolutions to condemn anti-Semitism, the Reauthorization of Violence Against Women Act, the Equality Act, and much more. Now, at first glance, you might confuse him for a department store mannequin with fake hair, or the real-life version of Lego Man. Mike Rogers is just another example of how the Republican Party is a clown circus imploding before our very eyes. And on any other day, this is the boring camera angle that we would have seen during that moment. So during Mike Rogers' tantrum, Marjorie Taylor Greene was on the phone with Trump trying to get Montana Representative Matt Rosendale to talk to him.
There towards the end, I had been talking with President Trump several times that night, and I was trying to get Matt Rosendale on the phone with him. President Trump wanted to talk to him, and I was shocked that he refused his phone call. And
he seemed angry about it.
He was angry. He yelled at me on the House floor, telling me, "Don't you ever do this?"
Hold on, what was that?
He yelled at me on the House floor, telling me, "Don't you ever do this?"
Trump is still trying to pull strings behind the scenes from Mar-a-Lago and give orders to Marge, who is desperately attempting to stay relevant, as her MAGA base and colleagues ditch her. And while the Republicans were literally fighting, Katie Porter was busy reading the book The Subtle Art of Not Giving a You could not write a better moment to compare both parties. And if anyone tries to push the lazy both sidism argument, just show them this photo. So in order for Kevin McCarthy to win his speaker bid, he gave Republicans Domino's Pizza, Five Guys Burgers, and all of his power. And whether this is true or not, Madison Cawthorn implied that Kevin McCarthy threatened to blackmail the Republican holdouts.
There are incredible threats being levied at them. One, they might be removed from committees. Other ones, that it's going to ruin their personal life. They might be going after their family members in their workplace. This is a very serious task that they're undertaking, and it should not be taken lightly.
And Cawthorn might know because, you know, he talked about the sex parties. But ultimately, McCarthy had to cut secret deals and make concessions behind closed doors. Here are a few of the concessions that McCarthy agreed to include in the egregious House Rules package. House Freedom Caucus members will receive 3 of the 9 seats of the powerful House Rules Committee. Revive the Holman Rule so they can cut agencies and slash funding. They want to remove the group that investigates ethics violations, because nothing says ethical like Republicans gutting the Office of Congressional Ethics. Republicans also want to have balanced budgets, which is ironic considering the first economic bill that they voted on would have added $114 billion to the national deficit. And it would have come as a result of trying to rescind $80 billion in funding allocated to the IRS in the Inflation Reduction Act. But not to worry, it would never pass the democratically controlled Senate, nor would President Biden ever sign it. The fiscally conservative Republicans just want to protect wealthy tax cheats like Trump from having their tax returns scrutinized by the IRS. Translation, they don't want their big donors getting taxed. McCarthy also agreed to create a special subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government in order to investigate the investigators who are investigating them. This panel is essentially payback for the DOJ and the FBI investigating Trump for the taking of classified documents to Mar-a-Lago and his conduct leading up to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Talk about projection. I mean, this is like Benghazi on steroids, which, if you remember, found no wrongdoing by Hillary Clinton, took 2 years, and wasted more than $7 million of taxpayer money. But the one concession that could end Kevin McCarthy's career as Speaker is the motion to vacate the chair, which means that at any point, if a single Republican from McCarthy's Chaos Caucus is unhappy with him, they can put up a vote to remove him. McCarthy gave away all of his power as Speaker before he ever got the gavel. Kevin McCarthy may have a gavel and a sign above his office door, but he's just a speaker in name only. And while McCarthy gave a lame acceptance speech that most likely took him months to write, Hakeem Jeffries gave an impassioned speech that schooled Republicans from A to Z.
House Democrats will always put American values over autocracy, benevolence over bigotry, the Constitution over the cult, democracy over demagogues, economic opportunity over extremism, freedom over fascism, governing over gaslighting, hopefulness over hatred, inclusion over isolation, justice over judicial overreach, knowledge over kangaroo courts, liberty over limitation, maturity over Mar-a-Lago, normalcy over negativity, opportunity over obstruction, people over politics, quality of life issues over QAnon, reason over racism, substance over slander, triumph over tyranny, understanding over ugliness, voting rights over voter suppression, working families over the well-connected, xenial over xenophobia, yes we can over you can't do it, and zealous representation over zero-sum confrontation.
So while Democrats actually work to help the American people, McCarthy's going to spend the next 2 years trying to not piss off his extremist base. Because it's important to remember that Kevin McCarthy didn't win the 218 votes needed to be elected Speaker. He won because people like alleged sex trafficker Matt Gaetz and insurrectionist Lauren Boebert voted present. And at the end of the day, I fear the Republican Party's incompetency and destructive policies will lead to another government shutdown, just like they did during the last time they were in power. The fact that Republicans can't even govern themselves on the House floor to elect a new speaker shows you how unfit and unqualified they are to govern our country. This clown Congress of Republicans are hijacking for the sake of hijacking, which will just result in them exposing their own failures. Well, I'm Gabe Sanchez, and this has been What Was That?